what a weekend it has been. And we begin with, of course, the Steel City derby, where Sheffield United beat their big rivals Sheffield Wednesday 3-0. 3-word reviews for Sheffield United. Brian says, effing superb blades. Jonesy says, F the pigs. Nedsky says, Sheffield is red. Colin says, Wilder's a wanker. For Wednesday, Matt says, spineless, pathetic, unforgivable. Yeah, it's the biggest win in the Steel City derby since 1979. It's Sheffield United's biggest win over their big rivals since 1951. It's their joint ever biggest win away at Sheffield Wednesday. And it was fully deserved, Justin.
It really was. Sheffield Wednesday didn't manage a shot on target throughout the game, and it just shows how well the Blades managed territory in the game. Not only that, but I thought the transitions from Sheffield United were great. They were fast, they were potent, they were direct. Just didn't have a clinical touch at times, but if they had, this game could have been a much bigger margin of victory for Sheffield United. So, yeah, I come away very impressed, and also it's genuinely some of the funniest content I've seen this season. It's been so great just seeing some of the fallout.
Give us some highlights. What's been a particular highlight?
My favourite has been Sheffield Wednesday fans taunting Tyrese Campbell, who's on the subs bench at this point, and he's just reminding them of what the score is. But the Sheffield Wednesday fans kept calling him a wanker and telling him to sit down. And then there's a comment on it on the thread on the second tier socials saying, "Why is a Sheffield Wednesday fan recording himself being bullied?" It was just, I was laughing for a good 5 or 10 minutes at that video.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I enjoyed the celebrations as well. On the game, in a strange way, I do actually think this result was more down to Sheffield Wednesday being so bad than Sheffield United being good. That's not to say they weren't, because at the same time, the only disappointment for United is that they didn't win it by more. Patrick Bamford, Tom Cannon and Danny Ings each missed big chances that they should have put away. And yeah, as you say, United could have easily got 5 or 6 on another day. And Wednesday just never got going. I thought, big occasion, local derby, they'd be bang up for this, but as you were saying, no shot on target. Michael Cooper literally didn't have a save to make, and Wednesday fans will go to work this week, I imagine, or wherever they see Sheffield United fans, and they'll say that Sheffield United won because they're struggling to put out a team Wednesday, obviously. And while they obviously will have played a part in this was arguably their worst performance of the season at the worst time against their big rivals. I feel particularly sorry for Ike Ugbo, who had a stinker and got ironic cheers when he was being subbed off. But no one in a blue and white shirt played well, really, apart from maybe Harry Amass. What a result for Sheffield United, though. They've got the bragging rights once again, Justin. By the next time they'll play, it'll be 14 years since they last lost to their big rivals. And they'll be hoping this can kick-start their season.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, a win doesn't change anything in their current position. They're still in the bottom 3. It doesn't change anything at all. But that's because they need a run of wins, don't they? They need that to get going. But this could be the springiest of springboards you could possibly need when needing to kickstart a season. A win over your rivals is important, but an emphatic win where you are comfortably the better side, that's just going to push you even harder. And I know there'll be a lot made of the celebrations at the end of the game from a lot of people. Maybe they were a bit too much. Maybe the picture at the end was a bit too much, because at the end of the day, Sheffield United are still at the bottom of the table, or in the bottom 3, I should say. But it's the morale, it's the confidence boost, it could feel like a complete change in the direction of the club this season.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, especially the bit about the celebrations afterwards. They've become quite used to celebrating at Hillsborough, haven't they? And they definitely know how to make the most of it. But yeah, it says a lot that despite winning here, Sheffield United are still in the bottom 3. As we've said previously, if you haven't followed them too closely, you might not be aware of how things have barely improved since Wilder's come back. It had been 6 losses in 10 heading into this weekend under Wilder. They've been seriously struggling, but we know that squad has a lot of talent in it, and everything could just click in an instant, and this could be that moment when you've got someone like Tom Cannon finding the back of net for only the second time this calendar year, albeit via deflection. That can go a long way to getting him scoring. When you've got someone like Tyrese Campbell getting his first brace in 2.5 years, that can go a long way to him getting back to his best. I thought Jairo Riedewald in the midfield, he might be a decent enough answer to who's going to replace Vinny Souza, which has been a big problem throughout this season. Ben Mee and Jaffa Tanganga kept Wednesday arm's length. Andre Brooks, a winger, made 11 tackles in this game, which is the joint most in a it is the most in a championship game for 2.5 years, which is a ridiculous stat. But if they play like this more often, they'll steadily pick up more points. And, of course, Patrick Bamford made his debut here as well, Justin, which we all like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he almost scored. Got involved in the Wilder is a wanker chant at the end again, which is another piece of content that is absolutely brilliant. But when you've got two former England internationals, I mean, they could play their way into contention just before the World Cup, Danny Ings and Patrick Bamford. You never know. We are short on strikers.
Harry Kane, watch out.
Oh, yeah. You gotta hope. Hey, have aspirations. That could push them even further this season. But when you got two former England internationals coming or playing in this game from Sheffield United point of view, it does highlight the strength that they do have and the quality, because that quality doesn't leave you. It's still there. It's just whether your body can keep up. But they could be important. But as you say, Patrick Bamford getting involved, Liam Cooper coming on as well. Nice to do a bit of nostalgia hit for the Yorkshire Giants at Leeds. This was everything you could have hoped for from a Blaze point of view.
Yeah, I was actually quite impressed with Bamford when he came on, considering he hasn't played a competitive game in 6 months. And that's before you even get on to how poor his form has been now for several years. I thought it looked quite nippy. And there was a pass he played to put through Tom Cannon, which was astonishing. So if he can get back to form, that'll be great for him and Sheffield United. And yeah, brilliant seeing him and Wilder celebrating afterwards with the Wilder is a wanker chant as well. So yeah, all good content. So we'll see if they can build upon this win at home to Portsmouth in midweek. Two sides who have struggled so far. So a big game for Sheffield United. I feel sorry for Wednesday fans, Justin, because this felt like an opportunity for a bit of joy on the pitch this season. And even that's been taken away from them now.
Well, I think it's worth bearing in mind that we've spoken to quite a few of the Blade contingent this week on our travels to various events, and none of them were particularly confident that they weren't. They were quite coy about the potential of the game, and that goes to show just how well Wednesday have been performing. So this will really hurt. This will be really sore, because despite the disparity in quality of the two teams, your effort levels and your mentality and your attitude, that can be matched quite easily. They're the intangibles. It can be matched. And it never felt like Wednesday fully had the belief. I mean, the atmosphere before the game from the Wednesday supporters was brilliant. They never got a performance to justify that. And that's the most disappointing thing. It just never felt. Even if you are put aside comfortably 3-0, you want to at least match opposition. Wednesday they didn't. At no point in this game did they.
Yeah, spot on, really. And the most surprising thing is the Wednesday players on many occasions this season have kind of replicated the fans bringing their A game, but that just wasn't the case here for whatever reason, because the Wednesday players were definitely not at the races. Sheffield Wednesday's administrators have said they hope to have a preferred bidder by Friday the 5th of December. So hopefully we'll have some good news then, and Wednesday can start assembling a squad to help them bounce back. Coventry City came from 2 goals down to beat West Brom 3-2. 3-word reviews for Coventry. Waddo says, found the blueprint. Mark says, Lampard managerial genius. Sky Blue Cal on our Patreon says 10-point cushion. So, Alna Hegebo scores twice to put West Brom 2-0 up. Then Coventry get a goal back just before half-time. Then, just 4 minutes into the second half, West Brom go down to 10 men after a second yellow for Jason Malumbi. And then you can imagine how the game panned out from there. And look, I don't like to single out players, Justin, but Jason Malumbi, he's got a lot to answer for after this game.
Yeah, I'd be apoplectic. I was annoyed seeing him make that tackle. And I'm sure he's apologised to his teammates and his manager. But this is stupid. It's stupid. It's over aggressive decision making, and he's put his team on the back burner. His first yellow card was stupid as well. It was an aggressive response to Coventry not putting the ball out for a throw, because I can't remember who was down injured. It might be Mikey Johnston in the first half. But he gives the foul away in a really dangerous position in West Brom's third. It's next level stupidity. It's just obviously the second one as well is the thickest decision you can make as a footballer. I really do believe that. So I'm not going to beat around the bush with it. It needs to be criticised, and everyone will be feeling it, because I think Jason Malumbi's cost West Brom at least a point here.
Yeah, it is an absolutely brain-dead decision from him because there was no need at all for him to make that foul, was there? And to do it at that stage of a game as well, because West Brom were deservedly leading up until that point, weren't they? Coventry were all over the place at the back in the first half. And the crazy thing is just seconds before Malumbi sending off, Auna Hegabo missed a decent chance. But then that happens and literally less than 15 minutes later, Coventry are leading and West Brom didn't have a single shot after going down to 10 men. So that Hegabo chance just before Malumbi got sent off ended up being their last shot of the game. So yeah, unfortunately, Jason Malumbi's definitely cost them. And it could have been a very significant result in many different ways for the entire championship, but credit to Coventry because they still had to get it done, did it very swiftly. And it's now 9 wins in 10 for them. And you're looking at the table, Justin, thinking, my Lord, because they're now 7 points clear at the top. They've got a 10-point cushion keeping them in the automatics. And it's starting to look fairly ominous, Peachy.
Yeah, starting to pull away. I think full credit to Coventry for turning it around because this could have been a game that got away from them. I mean, it did get away from them because I thought the first 35 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, they were particularly poor. And West Brom were on top and it felt like it's going to be one of those days similar to Wrexham where West Brom have their number. But the turnaround and the belief that rose from the moment where Josh Eccles scored was really, really impressive. And that even when Eccles scores to make it 2-1, you think, second half, there's 45 minutes. Yeah, there's more than enough time for Coventry to get going here. Because I feel that as soon as this Coventry team smells a bit of blood, they go for you, especially at home with the fans behind you as well. It feels inevitable that they're going to get back in a game. It's just whether or not they've got enough to win it. And they did here because they've got that ability to mix things up as they did with both their goals in the second half.
Yeah, when it comes to them smelling blood, they're like bloody Jaws, aren't they? As soon as they smell a bit of blood, and they really tore West Brom apart from the point Malumbi started cutting West Brom. But yeah, when they're winning games like this, where they look so shaky up until the sending off, then you start to get the sense that it is their year, if there are still any strong doubters out there. But it's not just this game, it's the fact that out of all the teams who were in the top 10 heading into this weekend, Coventry and Bristol City were the only sides to win. You got even bloody Ipswich. If you're looking for sides who could realistically go on a Coventry-style run of 9 wins in 10, you're looking at someone like Ipswich, but they can't even finish their dinner at home to Wrexham. And look, when it comes to Coventry, have they been as dominant over the last 6 or 7 games as their form suggests? No, I don't think they have. Particularly at home, they were smashing teams all over the place earlier in the season, but more recently, they've been giving up a fair few chances, and this West Brom game was the latest in that. However, they're 7 flipping points clear, and it's getting to the point where, for them not to go up, something would have to go seriously wrong.
Well, there were moments in this game where you think, oh, maybe they're not that good. The decision from Jay De Silva where he gets robbed for the first West Brom goal, it felt like that moment. And then the defending for the second goal was garbage. You have to go back to that Wrexham game where that defensive line's all over the place. And it was the same for that West Brom second. But as I say, they just smell a little bit of blood. I mean, Ellis Sims had a chance with the game at 1-0 that he should have put away. Yeah, there are just various moments in this game where you think, no, this Coventry team isn't as flawless as maybe we all think. But at the same time,
suggests for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that muscle memory. It's that muscle memory that I've spoken about before, and that ability to mix things up. The Matt Grimes for the equaliser plays a ball deep into the box, gets headed across, and it gets put in the back of the net, and then the winner from a set piece. They're a side that are so good at mixing it up that the variation makes them so unpredictable. And then there's that just unwavering belief to push forward. Yes, they are starting to show signs of weakness, but what team isn't going to do that at this stage of the season? Coventry not perfect, they're not, but they are the best team in the division. It just goes to show that everybody else in the division aren't as good as Coventry. That's the crux of it. That's all you can really say. But you know, to a man, they were brilliant. Josh Eccles was pivotal in this game, for example.
Yeah, well, when they keep winning, despite not necessarily playing in top gear, as they have done on many occasions in the past 6-7 games, then yeah, it just looks like it's fairly inevitable that it is their year. There is a huge game on Tuesday because Coventry have got Middlesbrough away. of course,
Ooh.
the side currently second. And just for a little bit of added narrative, Justin, you were just oohing then. You want a bit more of an ooh about it. Their former long-time assistant, Adi Vivesh, expected to be in charge of Borough for that one as well. But one thing we know for sure is Coventry will go 10 points clear at the top if they win that. So a huge game in the grand scheme of the entire Championship season. Let's have a look back how we did with our predictions in Friday's preview show, and the points were shared this weekend, ladies and gents. We both got our bankers correct. Mine being Birmingham to beat Norwich, which we'll talk about in a sec. Justin's being Bristol City to beat Swansea. No luck with either of our outsiders. We'll point out mine was Charlton to beat Southampton, which didn't go too well, but it means it's a point each for us both this weekend. And so I retain my 8-point lead. 18-10 it is to me now for the season. Justin has at least improved his miserable form. This was your first point in 3 game weeks, Peachy.
I'm going to Gary Rowett my way to taking the lead again. Just play the percentages.
You keep saying this, but
just play the percentages.
Say a lot different.
I'm going to get 1 point every week up until now, until Christmas, and then you'll start to sweat, I can tell you.
I'm not sure there's enough game weeks between now and Christmas.
Don't know
For
how
you
many
to
there are. Just
get
assuming.
that close, but yeah, we'll see how you get on, I guess. But yeah, we'll be back with another round of predictions in next Friday's preview show. Just we'll have a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Norwich's miserable start under Philippe Clement and Southampton running riot at the Valley. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. It wasn't a happy first game for Philippe Clement and Norwich City as they were thumped 4-1 away at Birmingham. 3 red reviews for Birmingham. Dave says, feed the duck. Max says, Stansfield scores goals. Adam says, 4 goals again. Paul says, smoking chimney boys for Norwich. Alex says, currently still shit. Michael says, we're going down. Philippe Clement, given a good idea of the job he's got in his hands with this game, Justin.
He said the thing that I don't like managers saying when they come in and they get absolutely wiped in their first game. He said that they're not fit enough. And that makes me worry a little bit, because Wayne Rooney did that when he came into Birmingham. I think Chris Wilder said that this season as well. Maybe there is an element for it, but it's not an excuse for losing 4-1 and being absolutely, the floor has been wiped with you in this game. There's no dusting over this. They were well and truly battered. Scoreline at 4-1 doesn't actually do it justice. But that being said, I'm not going to lambast Philippe Clement, because he's taken over another team that's really low on confidence, and you've come up against a really difficult opposition, against a difficult place to go, in Birmingham. And I think the reality is we all have to remind ourselves that Norwich are a bottom 3 side. They're a bottom 3 side. It's as simple as that. They look like a bottom 3 side, well and truly.
Well, they're playing like a bottom 3 side right now. That's absolutely undeniable. Whether they actually are a bottom 3 side, I guess only time will tell. But yeah, the scoreline obviously doesn't make for great reading. But I thought there were some positives to take away for Norwich, because they did show moments of brightness, particularly in the second half. And yeah, St Andrews is a very tough place to go. But at the same time, they were bullied, really, by a Birmingham side who were simply ferocious in the first half and could have very easily scored more. Kenny McLean followed up his heroics for Scotland with a bit of a stinker, including giving the ball away for the 4th Birmingham goal. So he's really come down to earth with a bump. So yeah, a lot of problems for Philippe Clement to solve. As for Birmingham, they were immense again, and it's the 3rd home game in a row where I've been massively impressed with Blues. The only other game in that time was the away trip to Middlesbrough, where they were unfortunate to lose. So I'm getting a lot of encouragement with Birmingham. I think they've been by far the best team across the entire division over these last 4 games. Everything just seems to have clicked all of a sudden, and it particularly helps when you've got Marvin Dukes getting the first goals in a blue shirt. He is looking like a tremendous player, Justin.
Yeah, he's a game changer, isn't he? Granted, his goals here were tap-ins, but his quality in the build-up play are immense. He's found himself in so many good positions, which is why he scored 2 tap-ins, by the way. If you can sniff out space where you know the ball's going to land, that shows a greater intelligence than just being a tap-in merchant. You know, Pipo Inzaghi made a career of it, for goodness sake, at the top level. So, you know, he's not he's not just poaching either. His ability and his work outside of the box to get in good areas, link up the wingers, the midfielders. It's all perfect, and he's also getting the best out of Jay Stansfield, which is what you want. It's really what you want. So not only is he he's final product really, really good. But also he's getting the best out of those around him. And I think that's the main thing here. I mean, Birmingham have scored 4 in the last 3 home games. I'm not saying it's all down to Marvin Dilks, but he's a big factor in that, because they've improved massively going forwards in creativity with him in the team.
4 in each of the last 3 home games.
4 in each of the last 3 home games.
We should say, yes. Apparently his nickname is the Duck. So I'm going to try and fit as many duck puns into my analysis as possible with him. Of course, he's got his first goals here, but in the last few games he's been playing as well as a striker can do, really, while not scoring. You get the ball to his feet, and he is superb at exposing the quacks in the opposition defence. Because, he links up the Birmingham attack perfectly, and when Birmingham signed him, we were pondering why the bill to sign him was so low. Justin's giving me nothing here. This is top class stuff. This is why we are FSA nominated, ladies and gents. But we're wondering why Birmingham got him so cheap, because his goal and assist record in Germany was brilliant. Well, it only becomes more and more strange by the day, because he's now left Birmingham wondering, what'll they do without him? And he's definitely making a splash. You'll be disappointed to know that's the end of the duck puns now. Justin is not giving that the credit it deserves, because that was unbelievable. But ultimately, Marvin Dilks is very good, and Birmingham are looking very good right now. Something which many people don't seem to think looks very good is Birmingham's new stadium. That's because images have been released of how that's going to look. The new 60,000-seater behemoth, which is apparently going to be visible from the Cotswolds, where I imagine there is a lot of ducks. A lot of people don't seem to be impressed by the 12 gigantic chimneys surrounding the stadium. What do you think, Justin?
The best thing I've seen about this is someone posted a picture on social media of a power station and saying, "Oh, bloody hell, that's gone up quick." It's generally very, very funny. It's interesting. There's 2 takes with this. Firstly, I really like the ambition, because you've got to be in the Premier League to have a 60,000-seater stadium ready in 5 years' time, haven't you? It's going to look fucking stupid in the Championship. So the aspiration is there, but it's hard to be there. You have to have everything in order. And the design, I look at it and I immediately want to ridicule it, because it's 6 brick chimneys on
12,
a football
actually.
ground. So how many?
12.
That's too many. But it's several.
How many would be enough?
6, I think. It's several brick chimneys around a football stadium. But I think maybe the reason why we're ridiculing it, Ryan, is because it's different. It's different. We get carbon copies of football grounds everywhere. I mean, at least it's not a tent like the Man United stadium is looking like, or a bowl like the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or the Emirates. They're putting chimneys around it. And you know what? Fair play. Go for it. I mean, it's going to be difficult putting that together, I can tell you that.
I enjoyed Birmingham fans chanting at one point in this game, 2-0 to the Chimney Boys. I think that's good stuff.
Nickname. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's what they're probably going to get called from now on. But I to kind of echo your point, I think it looks good. People nowadays go on about modern stadiums not having any character, and then one comes along which is trying to be a bit different. People criticise it.
Not like that.
Well, you may say that, but I don't have any issue with it. If I do have an issue with it, it's more that this stadium looks like it would be more applicable for Stoke, because well, they like chimneys, don't they? They used to have one on their badge, and are having one put on their badge from next season, because they're the Potters and you need chimneys for pottery, I guess.
They're going to be, Stoke are going to look at that and go, oh, fuck, why do we think of that?
Yeah. But Birmingham's owners are really hammering home the city's industrial past, aren't they? They need everyone to know that Birmingham was a big place for industry, and this helps with that, I guess. Southampton scored 5 goals, all in the first half, as they beat Charlton 5-1. At the Valley, 3-word reviews for Southampton. Andy says, prime Barcelona football. Saint says Southampton are back. Justin says, totally transformed team. Jamie says, fuck Nathan Jones. Ethan on our Patreon says, outsider my arse. Yes, that's in reference to my outsider from the previous show this past weekend. I don't know why you're laughing, Justin, because we've got your outsider coming up very shortly. For Charlton, Smith says, what the fuck? LN says, war crime defending. Yeah, in In the 13th minute of this game, the scores were 0-0. 10 minutes later, it was 4-0. A genuinely astonishing first 45, and one that wouldn't have left Nathan Jones very happy against his former side, Justin.
No, and Charlton fans as well. We had a DM on Instagram from Harry who, I think it was halfway through the first half. He'd gone for a pint at the pub. No faith coming back into that one. That just goes to show how bad it was. But yeah, the first 20 minutes were mad. No, because actually as you say, the minutes between the 10th minute and the 22nd minute, they were the real crazy stuff. I was watching the Coventry game at the time, and I thought Sky were taking the piss because the poor commentators ended up just saying the same thing over and over again. Southampton have another. Yeah. Just mine was blown at the sheer volume of interruptions in that game. Couldn't really focus on it in the first half.
Yeah, and there was a lot going on in the Coventry game in the first half, wasn't there? But yeah, Southampton had 20 shots in the first half alone. And the crazy thing is, Southampton should have scored more.
Yeah.
They missed some big chances before scoring the first. They genuinely could have scored 8 in the first half of this game. It's one of the most astonishing halves of football I've ever seen. And then nothing happened in the second half, really. But I think what makes this all the more crazy is this has happened to Charlton, who have been rock solid all season. They'd only conceded 12 in 15 games prior to this. But they were all over the place in this game, and Nathan Jones was unsurprisingly not very impressed with his team. He also, unsurprisingly, got a lot of chants aimed at him from the travelling fans who don't forget his brief time at St Mary's. But another unsurprising thing is, based off the results, Southampton were unbelievably good, Justin. We shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, I've not seen football like it at this level in a while. I'm not going to overact or anything, but it was generally some of the best stuff I've seen. Because the standard of the goals were brilliant. They were slick, they were quick, and they were just on it. First one, for example, it was direct football. You know, Tom Fellows getting to the byline, getting the cross in. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Second one, a driving run from Cienza, opens the game up. And then it's just passing football. Don't get me wrong, Charlton was suffering from injuries heading into the game, and there was some questionable space being left open in the middle of the park time and time again, which Southampton just exploited. And I think that's why I'm sat here going, Christ, it was really, really good stuff, because you don't see a team just ruthlessly exploit opposition as often as Southampton did here, especially in the time period in which they did. It was cruel. It was horrible to do that to a fellow man, to fellow human beings. It's not great. But you know what? Southampton, I think the fans have had to suffer a hell of a lot. And I guess that was a bit of a reward because, yeah, they've been through it. And to have that sort of football and quality style of play that we saw with the goals and the quality of the goals, yeah, there you go, guys. There you go.
Yeah. Penny for Will Still's thoughts here, please. Yeah, I was making the point in the preview show how, despite 2 wins, Southampton had been amazing in the 2 games under Tondereckett so far.
They pulled this out.
And then they did this, where they obviously were amazing. Adam Armstrong was back to being the Adam Armstrong from a couple of seasons ago, instead of the one from earlier in the season who was just missing chance after chance. He was unplayable here. Leo Cienza, who we've mentioned before, is increasingly looking like an unbelievable player. Casper Yander, another new signing, was brilliant in midfield. I thought Taylor Harwood-Bellis was magnificent with his distribution as well from the back, but 3 wins on the bounce, and Southampton are maybe starting to get to the levels that many expected them to be before the season started. Although, as I've said countless times, under Will Still, they weren't playing badly, just couldn't put the ball in the bloody net, and they've, based off this game, seem to have definitely rectified that now. So, and I tell you what, Justin, we think about how badly Southampton have started, they're only 4 points off the top 6. So the playoffs, definitely not out of the question if this is anything to go by.
Oh, I'm not going to get carried away, despite saying it's some of the best football I've seen at this level. You do have Leicester on Tuesday, which will be an awkward game because the way Leicester's set up, they like to be structured and cautious and play on the break, and that could be a really, really big test. It is a big test, but they have surpassed a big test here at Charlton because, as you said, Charlton coming into this game are one of the most up there defensive sides in the league. They only conceded 5 at home all season, and then they concede 5 at home in the first half here.
Literally doubled their tally in one half.
Really stat padded the Valley here, but they've overcome that test, and that's impressive, and that draws me into Tondereckett a little bit more because I was a bit sceptical about giving him a job when we spoke about it in last couple of episodes. But if he can get his team playing that like that, or being as ruthless as they were, because like you said, statistically they're performing pretty well under Will still, but for whatever reason that ruthlessness never existed. Well, it did here, and it has done in the last couple of games because they've been scoring goals without creating a hell of a lot of chances. So could the playoffs be on? Well, if they're 4 points off, certainly can, but you've got to replicate these performances, or at least a semblance of them, and then sure, it could be.
I will point out for one section of Wales, they will say that giving the caretaker manager the full-time job doesn't always go well. Obviously referring to Swansea and Alan Sheeran, because they were playing amazingly when he was the caretaker, and then when he got the full-time job, it obviously didn't go as well. So a bit of food for thought there. But yeah, Thunder Eckert, based off this game, is definitely getting a tune out of this very talented Southampton squad. And when they're only 4 points off the top six, even though there is a lot of traffic between them and the playoffs right now, yeah, I don't think you can rule out anything this season. We'll have another quick break. Just after that, we'll talk about a dramatic comeback by Watford at Derby, and QPR coming from behind twice to beat Hull. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Let's talk about Watford, who came from 2-0 down to win 3-2 away at Derby. Three-word review for Watford. Carol says, miracles do happen. Yeah, Derby, the form team in the league, having won 5 on the bounce. Watford hadn't won away since February. So this result, definitely one for the books, Justin.
Yeah, this has got championship written all over it, hasn't it? This is just your typical form team against a team who can't win for love nor money away from home, and they go 2-0 down, and then they win 3-2 in the last 10 minutes. It's just your typical championship game. This is what happens. This is a rinse and repeat. We know this. I mean, I'd love to talk more about. I think the situation of the game where Watford come from 2-0 down to win 3-2 actually takes away from wanting to talk about Dion Sanderson's goal, because a centre half pulling off what he did pull off was just ridiculous. But yeah, a lot of credit goes to Watford, because to turn that around with their form away from home is really impressive stuff.
As usual, I was at this game and I could not believe Derby lost. I was all ready to go and talk about how unimpressed I was with Watford, because 80 minutes in, Derby are 2-1 up, and it genuinely didn't feel like they were in any danger at all in this game. And then Joe Ward gives away a stupid penalty. Whether there's any contact is up for debate, but ultimately, if you go sliding in for a challenge like that, you're always risking it. And then minutes later, they concede again from a set piece. I could not believe what I was saying. I was genuinely lost for words that Derby were losing the game after looking like they were cruising to victory. But yeah, they just completely threw it away, just as I thought they had turned a corner and were starting to look like they could go places. And they would have gone into the top 6 with a win here as well, which makes it all the more frustrating. But perhaps the most worrying thing of all for Derby was Carlton Morris going off in the 18th minute, and John Eustace has admitted it isn't looking good. So we'll see what the assessment is on that one. But yeah, fair play to Watford, as I say. First away win since February. Wasn't very impressed with them up until the 80th minute, and they suddenly turned it on. But they had only won 4 away games in the entirety of last season. One of them was at Derby as well. In this one, though, the game looked as if it was slipping away from them, and they kept plugging away and got rewarded for it, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird game from their point of view, because they had a lot of the ball and did create some decent chances, but the balance of it is they were 2-0 down, and Derby should have seen that out. I think with that, it probably wasn't a 3-2 game for starters, and that probably lends to several players on both sides losing concentration at various stages, because I think all of the goals were very much avoidable. Like you said, you weren't particularly impressed with Watford. I wasn't particularly impressed with Derby, and losing Carlton Morris is going to be a big blow to that. But I think with that, Watford didn't really find their groove, but I don't think they had to, because I think Derby gave them 3 goals, and I think teams coming away, especially your Watford side, who haven't won away from home very, very often, if at all, since February, they're more often than not going to take advantage of those opportunities, and they did here, and that's what you can really applaud them for. Especially Idu Kiembe as well, scoring a brace. Hurts a little bit more because Watford fans ridicule him, but he's got his goals.
Yeah, he gets a lot of ridicule from Watford fans, but does seem to score a lot of goals each season, doesn't he? From midfielder, anyway. But yeah, there always seems to be at least one team each season who are strong at home, but horrendous away. And Watford have been proving to be quite an extreme case of that, considering heading into this weekend, they were joint top of the home table, but bottom of the away table. If their away form marginally improves, then top six isn't completely out of the question. Whether that's going to happen after this result, I don't know. But yeah, still a big one for Watford, without a doubt. Just on Derby, Justin, John Textor is reportedly preparing to make an offer for the Rams. The former Crystal Palace co-owner had been showing an interest in Sheffield Wednesday. What do we think to that?
Pretty nervous about it, to be honest with you. He was reportedly potentially a guest yesterday, but nothing has surfaced from that, so I don't think he was. I just don't like the idea of John Textor coming in. He's pissed off pretty much everyone he's been involved with. He pissed off a lot of people at Palace, did a lot of damage at Lyon, and he plays Fortnite as well, which questionable. He speaks too much. I don't like owners who speak too much. I think the ones that are quite quiet and need the communication to the club, they're the better owners because they don't need the spotlight, whereas John Textor does. And then yeah, that makes me ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. As we mentioned loads while talking about Wednesday when he was being linked with them, Textor's also the owner of Lyon, and Andy Brassel from the European Football Show here at Stack on the Continent doesn't have great things to say about him. So he's quite obviously trying to find an English club who he thinks has a lot of potential while also getting them fairly cheap. So I can see why he finds Derby appealing in that sense. From my perspective as a Derby fan, not particularly thrilled about the idea of being part of a multi-club ownership group, because I think you often tend to find the clubs in those groups getting prioritised. Maybe I'm wrong, but one thing I can say for sure is with David Clowes as the owner, I trust him when it comes to finding the best possible new owner for the club. And if he thinks John Textor is that man, then fair enough. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Let's go to QPR, who came from behind twice to win 3-2 at home to Hull. 3 reviews for QPR. Fly on our Patreon says, Jimmy fucking done. Matt says, comeback kings. GS says, Rangers are back. Matt on our Patreon says, thank you, Justin. Yeah, that's in reference to Justin's outsider for this weekend for Hull. Georgie says, Tigers chaotic again. Ryan says, absolutely piss poor. Matt says, Justin Peach curse. Again, Justin's outsider. Yeah, QPR had won just 2 in 9 heading into this, whereas Hull had won 5 in 7. So this is another result that goes somewhat against the form book.
Not just the result, but the performance as well, because QPR are on it. I think any other day, maybe Hull going forward created a decent amount of chances to win this, but they were so open defensively. QPR were, again, to be going into this, or a period of this game 2-1 down and then to only win it 3-2 probably doesn't do their performance justice. But they were felt like a QPR where you, I think I described them as potential to have champagne football before the start of the season, because that's how they've recruited some really talented attackers. And this was an element of that, definitely. It needs a bit of improvement, but at the end of the day, they dramatically won a game. They showed a bit of character to come from 2-1 down and create a hell of a lot of chances. There's a lot of good things to pull from it. But yeah, what an open game. But what do you expect with a Hull side?
Well, you say open. I'm not sure it was that open, because up until QPR scored what turned out to be the winner in the 66th minute, this was bizarrely one of the most one-sided games in the Championship in terms of the stats, because QPR had 23 shots to Hull's 3, yet weren't leading until the 66th minute. It did get a bit more towards Hull from that point on, when they had a few more efforts on goal, but otherwise QPR were absolutely battering them for the best part of an hour. So yeah, I think the win was deserved, to say the least. Hull will be disappointed to have left with nothing after leading twice, but QPR will definitely be hoping this gets them back on track, Justin, after we say just 2 wins in 9 heading into this.
Well, I think they've got this. They're going to have this period of streakiness throughout this season, because they've got a young side that have just been put together this summer with a new coach from overseas. It's going to take time to get it going. But if they can replicate the confidence and poise they showed in this game, in their approach play, then yeah, things will be positive. They've got a talented team, but they are going to have these moments of inconsistency. They just need to retain that belief, because this is the result that shows that the turnaround in the game. Yeah, it's an element of that, isn't it? You've got to show that character more often than not. But it was proper good stuff at times here, and you can come away going, yeah, really impressed with them in spells, a little bit wasteful in spells, but really bloody good in spells. I think that's just going to be QPR throughout the course of the season, if I'm going to be honest.
I think a big reason for their downturn in form has been some pretty tough fixtures, in fairness, but also injuries. Because I look at the team that faced Hull, and I would say that's not far off their best team. You've got Ilias Chair back in the fold now, who was unbelievable here. If he hits top form again, there aren't many better in the division than him. Romain Barrel was playing for Burton Albion last season. He scored 6 goals now this season. He's doing very well. But in terms of what I was just saying there about injuries and players coming back, Jake Clark-Salter making his first appearance since January. He's been absolutely plagued by injury. But if he can stay fit, QPR have got a top-class centre-half right there. And of course, they've been my dark horses this season. I'm not going to start neighing again after this result, Justin, because obviously the form hasn't been great. I'll let out a little... But even though their form has dropped and it's seen them slide into the bottom half, the division's so stupid this season that they're only 3 points off the top 6 still. So a couple of decent results this week and they could very easily be back amongst it again. So yeah, I'm not losing faith in my horsey just yet. It's now 4 wins from 5 for Blackburn after they won 2-1 away at their Lancashire rivals Preston. 3 road reviews for Blackburn. B says Spuds got mashed. Jack says smash the Spuds. Alicia says pride of Lancashire. Blackburn Dave on our Patreon says good routine win, spelt G-U-D. Yeah, even though Blackburn have been in form, this was another result I was not expecting, Justin.
Yeah, it is. Well, it is when you consider Preston's home form under Paul Heckingbottom. Completely agree, but I thought Rovers were decent here, to be honest, and they surprised me a little bit. I mean, I think both keepers were tested, but I think Preston, to concede both goals the way they did, just switching off, you do give yourself a lot to do after that. And I think with that, it was a game that wasn't like I've described certain games this weekend being open. This was probably one of those that were least open. But you had Blackburn being as clinical as they needed to be away from home, and you've got to praise them for that. Their away form is actually, it's not bad. It's pretty good. Definitely better than their form at home. But I think with Blackburn, for them to go away from home and win is, I wouldn't say it wasn't comfortable, but it's a big statement, especially with their form now under Valérien Ismaël over the past few weeks. It's really impressive.
Yeah, well, of course, Preston have started the season well, but it's not just that. Because since the start of last season, they had only lost 5 games at Deepdale prior to this. So that just goes to show how great a result this was for Blackburn. I was wondering how they would respond after losing to Derby just before the international break, and this was a very good response to that. And it always helps when Andre Goodjohnson is continuing to score the goals. Or should I say Ida, Justin? Because Sky Sports didn't seem to know the difference on Twitter on Friday night, did they?
It depends how old you are, Ryan. If you're over 30, you are going to mistake him for Ida Goodjohnson, aren't you? And I just think maybe the Sky Sports admin was over 30.
Maybe they were. It's an easy mistake to make, isn't it? Because I've definitely already heard a commentator at some point this season. I can't remember who it was. I've definitely heard a commentator make that mistake. And I'm sure it won't be the last time it happens, Justin, because we all fondly remember Ida. What a legend he was. Yeah, as for the game itself, I thought it was pretty even. Not much between them at all here. Not as much as you'd expect when there's 13 places separating these two. But that did get me thinking, Justin. When we look at the table and see Blackburn 18th and Preston 5th, do you think we need to sort of revise how we look at how well teams are doing this season? And what I mean by that is, yes, there's a long way between Blackburn and Preston in terms of places, but actually they're only 7 points apart. So when we say, oh, Preston have started much better than anyone expected this season, or Hull or Stoke for that matter, basically the teams many expected to be in danger of going down this season. Do you think we need to keep in mind going forwards how, yes, those 3 are all in the top 6, and in most seasons that would be amazing, but this season they're actually only doing marginally better than the majority of other teams because there's only 6 points separating 3rd and 17th?
Yeah.
I realise I haven't actually asked a question there. I think what I'm trying to say is Preston being 5th, slightly less impressive this season than it would be in other seasons, because points-wise, they're only 5 points better off now than someone like West Brom, who by all accounts have been pretty poor for a while now. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point to make. And it's one that I carry with me until you get to sort of January, February time, because I don't think your place in the table actually matters until you've got a really big cushion. because that's when, if things go tits up for you that in a season, your places don't matter. It's the points between you and the teams that are below you. I mean, Preston are such a good example last season of it being so comfortable in the Championship in February, and then only just scraping survival on the final day of the season. Doesn't matter where you place; it's how many points that are between you and the teams that are below you. Birmingham are another prime example earlier on this season when there's a lot of hyperbole around Chris Davis and potential of him going because Birmingham sit down to 17th, 18th, but they're only 4 points or whatever, something stupid, something daft off the top six. So you can't make a judgment off where a team is placed at this stage in the season. The points are an important factor. Coventry at top, great, but they're 10 points clear or whatever of the teams that are below them. That's where you can go, yeah, really impressive. The rest of the teams, all to play for, Ryan.
Yeah, and at the risk of incurring the wrath of Coventry fans, yes, they've been amazing this season, do not get me wrong, but I think a big part of why Coventry are now 10 points clear in the automatics is because everyone else has just been shite. I think that has played a part in it. I don't want to take anything away from Coventry. No, consistency is, no one has been that consistent really this season, hence why there is such a small gap now between basically third all the way down to 17th. So that's just how this season's panning out. And I mean, we love it as Championship fans because it means it's going to be a very entertaining season and anyone could finish in the playoffs. But in terms of, what it means in terms of teams actually doing well this season, it's quite hard to be consistent with your narrative, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But we'll finish off, Justin, with Swansea City, whose fortunes didn't improve despite sacking Alan Sheehan. They lost 3-0 away at Bristol City. 3-word reviews for Bristol City. Johnny says Swansea get battered. Zane says 7-side derby winners. Claire says Mehmeti 3 assists. Phil on our Patreon says injuries coming back for Swansea. Kevin says totally, absolutely shite. Dino says disgrace to the shirt. John says delete the season. Tyler says good luck, Matos. Yeah, full credit to Bristol City. They were excellent here, Justin.
Yeah, the Anis Mehmeti show. 3 assists. It was an unbelievable performance from him and a really good one from Bristol City. His third assist was sexy with a little 360 in the middle of the pitch for a nice little reverse pass. But it really could have been 4 or 5 here if it wasn't for Lawrence Vigouroux in the Swansea goal, who I thought was outstanding. He was the only player to come away with a bit of credit from a Swansea point of view. But it did get me thinking, Ryan, that I'd argue that this Bristol City team needs just 5 or 6 million to make it a proper automatic chasing squad. I'd spend $1 million lowering the fucking camera. That's what I would do. But, put a striker in there, a wing back and a number midfielder. This squad can really, really push on. It just needs a bit of, I wouldn't say ambition because that's not particularly fair, but it needs a proper striker in there who's going to consistently score 10, 15 goals.
Bristol City?
Yeah, I think so.
You were bigging up the Emil Rees signing in the summer.
It's a good signing. It's a good signing. And don't get me wrong, if it wasn't for Lawrence Vigouroux, I get that I might be being too critical on a team which just won 3-0 here, but I think if you put in a number 9, like a Carlton Morris, just a really good example, who was signed this summer, but relatively cheap, you put him in this team, I think that the makeup of this squad is very, very different, and it could be one of those teams that are consistent enough to push Coventry. That's just my point of view. Obviously, the injuries coming back are going to help, but I'm going to big this team up because, as I say, I really like it, and I just wanted to make the point about lowering the camera. Please, for the love of God, lower the camera. Yeah,
it seems to be getting higher, doesn't it? I don't know how it keeps getting higher and higher. Won't be able to see anything by the end of it. No. To give Swansea a bit of credit, Radek Vitek in the Bristol City goal did have a few saves to make in this one, but yeah, otherwise Gerhard Struber's boys were much the better side, without a doubt. Anis Mehmeti, as you say, setting up all 3 goals, he was unplayable. I've just checked, in the 2 seasons prior to this one, Justin, he had only had 2 assists in 2 seasons. Yeah. So he's managed to better his assist record in this one game than he had managed over the previous 2 seasons at Bristol City, which is pretty good going. But yeah, it was a great team performance and really showed what Bristol City are all about. The exciting thing is, though, they had so many players come back from injury in this game. Their bench looked completely different to what we had seen just before the international break. Yeah, they have been really blighted by injuries recently, but suddenly are looking a lot stronger, which is great timing with the winter fixtures coming up, of course. As for Swansea, they are set to appoint former Liverpool coach Vitor Matos as their new manager after Maritimo in Portugal, his current club, revealed that he will be leaving. And I imagine if he was watching this game, Justin, which I assume he was, he wouldn't have been too impressed with what he saw here.
I'd book a flight back to Portugal, wouldn't you? Nicer. Yeah, I think firstly, I'll say this because then you can have a quick look. He looks a lot like Pep Clement, does Vitor Matos.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Pep Clement used to manage Birmingham, for anyone who doesn't remember him, because he's quite an obscure manager.
Yeah, very obscure manager, but he used to be a coach at Swansea before him and Gary Monk divorced, if you like. But yeah, what would he take away from that? There's a lot of work that needs to be done. A hell of a lot of work that needs to be done. As I say, you think defensively, the foundations were quite strong under Alan Sheehan, or stronger than their attacking foundations, definitely. But that did not look the case here in this game. He's got a lot of work to be done. I mean, Darren O'Day, who's the interim coach, when Swansea were chasing the game, brought on Jay Fulton and Ricardo Santos, which tells me that their attacking options are quite low. So yes, new coach, new ideas are needed ASAP.
Yeah, Swansea only managed an XG of 0.9 in this game, but
quite high for Swansea
there. Swansea had become so terrible going forwards that this 0.9 from this was actually their highest XG in their last 7 games. So a slight improvement there, I guess. But yeah, with Swansea, it has got to be pointed out, they are now 20th, only 4 points above the relegation zone. Matos, only been a manager since June. It seems like he's mainly been brought in as someone who can develop players in the long term. So in the short term, if it doesn't go well, it won't take much for them to find themselves in real trouble. However, as previously mentioned, because the league's stupid this year, a few wins and they could find themselves in the top 6 within a matter of weeks. So who knows? But Swansea could really do with him hitting the ground running ultimately, Justin.
Yeah, I was going to bring up that point that you just made. They're only 8 points off the top 6, so a good Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, and my goodness, the season will change. But like I said, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think this team is regressed quite significantly. It needs a new identity because it's not enough. It's not enough. It's bland. It's boring. There's no balance within it. And you need a coach who's going to come in and maybe put a rocket up the players' backsides. And I think someone who's worked under Jurgen Klopp might have experience of doing that. I'm not going to bank too much on that because the proof is going to be in what he can do and what he can achieve, and whether or not he can step up to the plate as a first team or a head coach at championship level. But like we said before, Swansea have taken risks with giving managers their first opportunities at the club, and this is just another example of that. So fingers crossed it goes well.
Yeah, we shall certainly see. Let's go to the polls, Justin. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter or X, because we want to know how they are feeling about things going on from across the Championship. So the first question we asked was this: are Coventry winning the Championship this season? Yes or no?
I can't make a convincing case about anybody else, so yes.
I mean, how can you say anything but yes right now? Because look at the table. That's all you've got to do, really. But quite surprisingly, I thought this poll would be a lot more one-sided. It's 76% say yes, 24% said no, which is more than I thought it might be.
It's a decent majority.
Yeah, it's a decent majority, but I thought it would be more straightforward than that. So that's interesting. Which of these new managers would you choose to have in charge of your club? Philippe Clement at Norwich, Kim Hellberg at Middlesbrough, or Vitor Matos at Swansea?
Ooh, I've got a moustache. I like coffee. I'm going with Kim Hellberg. I'm going with the hipster choice.
Right. Yeah, it's a hard one considering we know very little about all these managers apart from Clement, who we know was
just been hammered 4-1, right? And he's done.
Well, there is that to keep in mind. Yeah, it's a really hard one, that one. 52% said Kim Hellberg, 33% said Philippe Clement, 15% said Vitor Matos, and finally, is Die Hard a Christmas film, yes or no? What do you think, Justin?
I think it is. There's definitely several Christmas messages in there.
Like what?
Don't be a terrorist organisation on Christmas Eve.
That's the Christmas spirit. All right. I put this question in there because this was asked by Snapdan on our Discord this past week. So I wanted to get a definitive answer from the great British public and beyond. 68% said yes. 32% said no. So there you go. As Christmassy as it gets, Die Hard.
Would you watch Die Hard any other time of the year other than Christmas?
I don't think I have, in fairness.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. That answers that one, doesn't it? So that is the definitive proof there that Die Hard is indeed a Christmas film. But there we go, ladies and gents. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. If you're a Patreon subscriber or a YouTube community member, hang about. We've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call Zamora Time. We'll be talking about the manager championship clubs may have been sleeping on. Daniel Farker and the big question, Maltesers or minstrels. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get Zamora Time in every single weekend show. And for YouTube members, your Zamora Time is available exclusively to you as the next video uploaded to the channel. If you're not signed up yet, audio listeners can head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. And for YouTube viewers, just hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button on our channel page. Justin's too busy thinking about Maltesers or minstrels, so you can find out his decision in Zamora Time. But we will see you then for that. Otherwise, it's been the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday. I've been Ryan Dilks.
But just Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.